In the autumn of 1942, German radar operators stationed along the Atlantic coast noticed something strange on their screens. At first, it appeared to be another small raid, the kind that could be handled by a few squadrons of fighters. But the signals kept multiplying. Dozens became hundreds. The formations stretched across the horizon like a slow-moving storm of metal. These were not fighters probing defenses. These were bombers, American bombers. For the first time, the German air defense network faced a threat it had never been designed to confront. The Luftwaffe had been built for rapid campaigns and decisive battles, not for the defense of an entire nation against a relentless industrial assault from the sky. Leading these formations was the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, later joined by the B-24 Liberator. They were not elegant aircraft. They were not particularly fast or agile, but they were something far more dangerous. They were durable, heavily armed, and built to operate in disciplined groups. American air doctrine did not depend on individual heroics. It depended on systems, tight formations, overlapping defensive fire, repeated missions flown day after day against the same targets. Factories, oil refineries, rail yards, and power stations were not simply objectives. They were the organs of a living machine. The goal was not to defeat the German Air Force in the air. It was to break the German war economy on the ground. Germany's answer to this threat came from its best fighters, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf Fw 190. These aircraft were masterpieces of engineering, compact, powerful, and lethal in skilled hands. In the early years of the war, they had destroyed opposing air forces with frightening speed. They were designed to climb rapidly, strike hard, and return to base before the enemy could respond. Against enemy fighters, they were supreme. Against bombers, they were expected to be devastating. On paper, Germany should have dominated the skies. Its fighters could climb faster than the bombers. Their cannons could tear aluminum apart in seconds. Their pilots were among the most experienced in the world, veterans of Spain, Poland, France, and the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe believed in superiority through skill and technology. A better airplane, flown by a better pilot, would defeat any enemy. But the sky over Europe was changing into something Germany had never encountered before, an industrial battlefield. When American daylight bombing intensified in 1943, German commanders were shocked by its scale. A single raid could involve 500 bombers or more. Each bomber carried multiple heavy machine guns. Flying in rigid combat boxes, they covered each other with interlocking streams of fire. Any fighter approaching from almost any angle would be hit by bullets from several aircraft at once. The sky itself became a fortress in motion. German fighters attacked anyway. They dove from above and behind, firing short bursts before breaking away. Some pilots aimed for engines. Others aimed for cockpits. A perfectly executed attack could destroy a bomber in seconds. But every pass through the formation cost fuel and time, and every pass increased the risk of being hit by defensive fire. What German high command had not anticipated was how easily the Americans replaced what they lost. When a German fighter was destroyed, it meant months of training and a skilled pilot gone forever. When an American bomber was destroyed, another one replaced it. When a crew was lost, another crew was already in training. The Americans were not fighting with airplanes alone. They were fighting with factories, schedules, and logistics. The Focke-Wulf Fw 190 became Germany's main interceptor. It was faster and more heavily armed than the Bf 109. Engineers modified it with heavier cannons and rocket launchers designed to break up bomber formations. In theory, it was the perfect bomber killer. In practice, it faced a fatal limitation: range. German fighters could not remain with the bomber streams for long. They had to climb from their airfields, intercept the bombers at altitude, fight, and return before fuel ran out. American bombers flew deep into Germany, sometimes hundreds of miles beyond the coast. German pilots fought not only enemy aircraft, but the clock. Then the Americans changed the war. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang transformed everything. It was fast, long-ranged, and heavily armed. It could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. German fighters now faced a new dilemma. If they attacked the bombers, Mustangs would dive on them from above. If they fought the Mustangs, the bombers would pass through unchallenged. Either way, the bombers continued. Germany adapted with desperation. Special interceptor units were formed. Heavily armored fighters were designed to fly straight into bomber formations at close range. Rockets were introduced to scatter formations before attacks. Head-on assaults became common. German pilots fired at distances so close they could see the faces of enemy gunners. Bombers exploded, broke apart, or spiraled down trailing smoke. But these attacks consumed pilots faster than they destroyed bombers. Escort fighters waited above and behind the German formations. When the interceptors turned away, the Mustangs descended. Withdrawal became slaughter. For every bomber destroyed, Germany lost fighters and pilots it could not replace. Technological solutions followed. The Me-262 jet fighter entered service. It was faster than any Allied aircraft. It could slash through bomber formations and escape before escorts could react. On paper, it was decisive. In reality, it arrived inside a collapsing system. The Me-262 required special fuels, advanced alloys, and constant maintenance. Its engines wore out quickly. Its airfields were bombed relentlessly. Pilots were rushed through shortened training programs. It was a miracle weapon born into ruin. By 1944, Germany faced a new enemy: fuel. Refineries burned. Synthetic fuel plants were bombed again and again. Pipelines were cut. Without fuel, pilots could not train. Without training, survival rates collapsed. Fighters sat on runways with empty tanks. Engines remained silent. Units existed only on paper. American bombing shifted focus. Oil became the priority target. Not cities, not symbols. Silence. Aircraft that never started. Squadrons that never formed. Germany tried to reorganize. Units were concentrated near vital industrial regions. New command structures were created. Mass interceptions were planned, but every solution required fuel, pilots, and time. All three were disappearing. Meanwhile, American escort tactics evolved. Fighters no longer stayed close to bombers. They ranged far ahead, sweeping German airspace clean. They attacked airfields and intercepted German aircraft during climb, when they were slow, heavy, and vulnerable. German pilots rose into enemy fire before even reaching the bombers. German aircraft became more advanced as Germany itself became weaker. New versions of the Fw-190 and Bf-109 appeared. Rocket interceptors were tested. Jets entered combat. The sky filled with designs that might have dominated another war. But this war was about scale. Each German aircraft required skilled labor and rare materials. Each American bomber was built for speed of production and ease of maintenance. Germany raced toward perfection. America raced toward quantity and reliability. The difference defined everything. By late 1944, entire Luftwaffe units existed only on paper. Training flights were canceled. Aircraft were hidden under trees. Fuel was rationed to single missions. Bomber streams now crossed Germany through defenses that had once promised annihilation. The Reich had forged the sharpest swords in the sky, but it was bleeding to death from thousands of small wounds. By early 1945, bomber formations crossed Germany almost unopposed. Escort fighters roamed freely. Airfields burned in daylight. Trains were strafed on open tracks. The Luftwaffe no longer defended Germany. It hid within it, and yet German pilots still flew. They climbed into cockpits knowing the odds. They fought battles that could not be won, not because of cowardice, but because the system behind them had collapsed. The question remained, how did Germany lose control of the sky when it began the war with such superiority? The answer was not aerodynamics, it was philosophy. German air doctrine was built on elite pilots in superior machines. It assumed wars would be short and skies limited. American doctrine assumed wars would be long and skies industrial. The bomber was not just a weapon, it was a process, a flying extension of the factory floor. It repeated the same task endlessly: fly, drop, return, repeat. Germany countered with machines. America countered with systems, radar networks, production schedules, training pipelines, escort doctrines, maintenance cycles. Losses were expected and absorbed. Germany had machines without systems. America had systems that created machines. Germany recognized this too late. Engineers saw it. Pilots felt it. Commanders admitted it after the war. No fighter, no matter how fast or advanced, could stop a bomber force backed by an economy larger than continents. The air war was not decided over Berlin. It was decided in Detroit, where factories never slept, where runways were not bombed, where fuel flowed freely, where pilots trained without fear. Germany's best fighter did not fail because it was flawed. It failed because it was alone. It fought an enemy that did not need to be brave, only endless. Germany could shoot down bombers, but it could not shoot down the future.